How's it going, everyone? Thanks for watching e-commerce growth show. This is the 18th episode already, and I'm here with Edward. Edward, thanks a lot for joining us today.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. So let me give the, let's say, standard presentation about you to our audience today. Edward has delivered successful e-commerce growth for multiple brands operating across the EU and Asia and Pacific, including Europe's largest online music retailer, the Musikhaus, Thomann, and the Grow company. Today's topics: the challenges and the rewards of focusing on the customer lifetime value, how to engage your audience and communicate your why, and a successful e-com journey requires apps, partners, specialists who deliver and understand your mission as an e-commerce brand. So, Edward, again, thanks a lot for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So the first question, as I'm asking everyone, how you've got in this e-commerce space at the very beginning. Let's take the Wayback Machine.
Oh, wow. I don't know if you've got enough time in the hour, Valentin, but I'll keep it very short. I literally stumbled into it. I think like most people over the age of 40, this beard hides a lot of age. But yeah, I literally stumbled into it. I grew up in quite a rural area of the UK in a place called Suffolk. You had to travel at least an hour and a half to get to any kind of town or city. And you know, this is going back to the days before the internet even existed, when we only had 4 channels on the TV. Might scare any US viewers on the show today. But yeah, I started off, wanted to get into playing video games. I wanted to be a game developer. I was going to be the next, person behind the next big thing. Yeah, so part of that, I studied computer sciences. Very quickly found I couldn't sit at a computer very long to program. It won't probably be a surprise to people that I like to talk. I like to get up. I like to get and move around. There's nothing against devs, but it takes a whole other concentration level that I just don't have. So I ended up working for a systems integrator. We worked with telcos, utilities, and oddly enough, I was trusted to be part of a project for O2, which is a big telco career over here. And we were working on, this makes me feel really old, but we were working on a system that would allow you to pay for prepaid top-up cards for your mobile phone that you could actually, because previously you had to go into the supermarket, to the cigarette counter and buy them there. And then there was this new thing that actually, why don't we do it online? You know, so it was my first experience into e-commerce. It was my first experience of buying things online. And I have to say, I was hooked from that point on. We started doing a lot more projects. It was driven mainly by the big telco operators offering gateways online to do like very menial tasks. But yeah, I saw a future I'd like to be involved in, and that's where it all kicked off.
Yeah. So how you've managed to go to this music store e-commerce, Musikhaus Thomann? Tell us the story behind it.
It's going to be a consistent story of my life, Valentin. Just like into things. I lived the traditional UK dream, grew up in the country, moved closer and closer to London, spent 5 years in London, fell in love with a German girl, and was at an age where I just went, pensions don't mean anything to me, savings don't mean anything. I'm just going to suddenly jump across the water and move to Germany. And I was doing consultancy and contracting for the systems integrator in the UK. I think they realized I was spending way too much time on a mobile phone that was still registered in the UK. So that ended, and I was wondering what to do. And I'd never heard of Thomann, but I bumped into a Finnish guy in my local town. It was a place called Bamberg. It was about 60,000 people, very transient big university city. University town. Bumped into this Finnish guy because I didn't speak German at the time, and lo and behold, he happened to be running the Scandinavian side of internet sales for Musikhaus Thomann. And I was on the cusp of going back to the UK because I was running out of money. And lo and behold, 7 years later, I was heading up the whole operations for Thomann alongside. It's very traditional for Germany if you've got like heads of department, especially in international. I co-ran it with a local German guy called Kai, who's a very good friend of mine. But yeah, we ended up building like over 120 million turnover in our department alone. When I joined, it was like 7 people. It was 5 from the Scandinavian team. They bought a Finnish mail order company. They bought it, and these guys were absolutely rinsing it in Finland. For a country of 5 million people, month on month they were doing over 1 million turnover, which was phenomenal. So I looked at it at that time and went, if you can do that in Finland, if you have such strong coverage in Germany and Austria, what could we really do when we start opening it up? And the biggest secret for growth at that time, and I think the biggest lesson that I left Germany with, was localization. I was on the cusp of personalization, and I didn't even realize what I was doing, but it was very much localization. When we were very sneaky, because when we were growing the department, we got a lot in contact with a lot of universities across Europe. And we would take music grads and offer them the perfect scenario. Come to Germany, all expenses paid. If you love music, the whole Thomann bricks and mortar store was their family home. It still is the family home. You've got to imagine there is a tiny little village called Bergibrach in Bavaria, in southern Germany, and I'd say probably the village is no more than 60, 70 people that live there. But the Thomann family home has grown into not only a huge music store, but then, Hans Thomann even has his own road now. It's so big, but it's such an amazing experience for employees and for visitors alike to get engrossed in music. So when we would bring people over, we would get them immediately to start looking at translations. And this will probably shock you, but back then when I joined, all of the translations that had been done on the site had been done through Babelfish. I don't know if Babelfish even exists anymore, but when and there's another interesting lesson to this, but because the translation was so bad, you would call a microphone holder in German a Spinner. But when you translate a Spinner to English, it means spider. So you would have a microphone sold with a spider. And what was really interesting when we brought in someone from Brazil, who was a real big Thomann advocate, they thought literally that we had a crack team of comedians working on the site, because we had amazing music products, great prices, easy to understand shipping, but we thought they were adding like fart jokes and spider jokes and everything just to make it a bit more personalized to that audience. And again, the lessons that we learned through translation, through local dialects, through personalization, it was fascinating journey. But again, something I literally found myself rolling into.
Yeah. So getting a bit closer to the today's topic, Edward, what's your take on the CLV? First of all, how you've encountered and how you've discovered this metric. It was based on your experience at Thomann or afterwards?
No, afterwards, actually. It was at the Grow company. So I've been following CLV really from my first days working with Bronto and working with email marketing. And I think a lot of what you preach at OmniConvert about recency frequency metrics, I take very much from email marketing. And when Bronto first came into EMEA, they were one of the first email marketing companies who were able to produce a revenue calculator, and they built that revenue counter around CLV. They kept it micro into email marketing. So what was the customer lifetime value through their email marketing chain? And how we worked it with the Grow Company, for anyone who doesn't know, Grow Company made baby sleeping bags. So they became like the de facto baby sleeping manufacturer in the UK. Took an idea that's been across Europe for many, many years, brought it to the UK, and it worked. But when you looked at our customer lifetime value, we were selling predominantly 97% to parents, and the rest were gifters, so grandparents, friends, etc. But the journey started really within the first trimester of someone's birth. So it wasn't we wanted to start marketing to those people as soon as they've been their new little one has just arrived. We actually started the journey in the first trimester, because we started to understand that a parent would, as soon as they found out that they're pregnant, they start researching, they start looking at forums, they spend so much time looking at, okay, what should we be using, when should we be using it? So we would start marketing at that first point. What is the newborn package? And not only what is the newborn package, how do our products relate in a story? And then we'd be able to identify very easily from something as simple as a swaddle, which would really low entry to market, about $6.99, and we could do that free shipping. But immediately we've got that initial point to start upselling, cross-selling, and taking people through a journey. And how we did it and how we understood customer lifetime value and the cycle is by mapping each key stage of a parent's journey, from the first trimester through to birth. And then our product range was very much focused on 0 to 6 months, 6 to 18, 18 to 36. But then even deeper than that, we started looking at, okay, we're talking about temperature. It wasn't about what the child was wearing, even though it became more of a fashion item, because once you get past the credence of your product, you've got all the safety regulations, you've got the backing of certain boards. At the end of the day, you buy that product if you like it blue, pink, yellow, purple. So it did become a fashion item, but the lead up to that repeat purchase is very much identifying where the customer is in that life cycle, and also we cross that with what temperature. And so we were very focused on the big lessons we learned specifically when launching in Australia is December it's boiling hot, but in June, July it's absolutely freezing cold. And then when you're working in somewhere like Australia, where certain times the south could be 45 degrees, the north can be snowing. And how does that relate? So I remember when we launched in Australia, we took our marketing calendar and our whole value strategy and had to literally turn it inside out, because it was almost reversed. But I think that this was what was my real buy-in to customer lifetime value. It would have been very naive for us to focus on that initial purchase, because the initial purchase was just a very low barrier to entry, and we could have been the swaddle people, just a blanket, high margin, low entry. We could have done lots of 2-for-1s, bundles. But really what we started doing online is saying, look, we would take a massive hit on that first purchase, because our goal was to, through education, through intelligent messaging, whatever channels we were able to communicate with that customer, we could go with them along the journey and hold their hand. And this is something that I talk about with great passion, is whether you're an agency, a tech provider, whether you're an e-commerce or a direct brand, it's so important to hold the hand of your audience. Now, whether that's if you're an agency like I'm with now, and you're dealing with a migration or walking people into a new platform, you've got to hold their hand. Or if you're just working on a direct e-commerce site, the importance of customer lifetime value, and the secret for me is understanding the story, understanding the why, and understanding the journey that your audience is on. And if you can align yourself with that, you are holding their hand and you're walking them through, and you're really delivering on that customer lifetime value, not only to your finance team, your managing team, your investors, but also more importantly, your customers. And that's why they keep coming back.
Yeah, Edward, I think what is still, let's say, hard to achieve for many e-commerce managers and marketeers as well is how to really track customer lifetime value. Because, okay, we are in this game of improving for the long term, improving the total lifespan of the customer, getting more value from more frequent purchases. However, Google Analytics is not showing you this data. We've been looking at these aspects for a lot of years so far, but and that was actually our blue ocean. So we've discovered that this is an important aspect, and that's why we've built Reveal. But how was for you back then at the Grow company? How would you measure and keep track of the customer lifetime value?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think also something that I'll add to that, Valentin, is it's hard to track that CLV, but it's also hard to convince managers, bosses, investors the importance of CLV, because they're very focused on immediate acquisition and immediate retention and immediate numbers, because it's all in the now. It's what are we doing now? What is it there? I tell you, the secret for us was an incredible business analyst that the Grow company had at the time. And we worked very closely together to define a model that we would meet fortnightly to look at CLV, because you've got to understand, from where I was at the Grow company, we were a brand manufacturer. So our goal was, a bigger piece of the puzzle was supplying the likes of Amazon, John Lewis, Mothercare, these big global high street retailers, whilst also trying to build up a direct
channel,
which could also, I mean, nowadays it's fine, but 10 years ago it was like, what on earth are you doing? This is just madness, and it's even more prominent now. The tools, I will have to say, just weren't available to us at the time, and it was a lot of spreadsheet work, a lot of interrogating data in SAP, a lot of running very complex XML queries on databases that have been pulled out of SAP. So there was literally, it used to drive us crazy, or our finance team crazy, because once we used to come in early on Fridays about 7:30 in the morning and just completely drain SAP of all of the power it had to run all the reports. But that's what you had to do. And I think it's even easier than ever now with platforms such as yourself to speed up that process and give it as that line of sight, day to day, minute to the minute. Because what I've had to deal with in the past is just a lot of manual data manipulation. And what's interesting now, especially with a lot of the clients that I work with alongside Swanky, they are still looking at that same model. They're still interrogating data. They're not aware that these kind of platforms are available to them.
Yeah, I think that's a gap at this moment, and this must change. I predict, so I dare to predict that. I've been tracking customer lifetime value exactly like yourself. So back in 2009 and 10, I was an e-commerce entrepreneur. We were selling car insurance here in Bucharest, Romania, and we were doing this kind of huge queries to identify the 12-month CLV and then the 24-month CLV, so that we can understand how much we actually afford to pay in order to acquire a customer. But what I've been noticing is that more and more people, as the customer acquisition gains is more and more expensive, and as the platforms such as Facebook and Google Ads and all these crowded places are being, let's say, are draining the marketing budgets, I think more people will lean towards customer lifetime value and customer retention, so that they can actually break even or be profitable. So I think the trend is towards this. What's your take? How do you see the market evolving into this direction?
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think one of the things that's going to push that really far forward is subscriptions. I think, what's interesting, sorry to name check another podcast, but I was following a TJ Gamble podcast with insights into the Chinese market. And what I was, my ex-wife is American. I spent a lot of time over there, and subscription models are just so normal. And I was interested in how China is adopting subscriptions, and it's not as far ahead as we are in EMEA. We're not on US levels, but we're getting there slowly but surely. But any brand that's interested in subscription, and you look at the current situation we've seen the rise of any commodity. So whether it's food, whether it's vape, whether anything that is a consumable, for me, has an amazing opportunity in subscriptions. And I think what we're finding now is we as Swanky, we're known very much for being the best in the subscription space, especially with Shopify Plus. So there's the plug for the agency there. But again, with the multiple brands that we've delivered successful subscription services for, they are coming to the hindsight of CLV. They are understanding the longer picture, and they are understanding that they have to look at commercializing their product offering to much more than a single purchase or a monthly purchase. What is it that you can do to extend that CLV beyond simple discounts and things like that?
Yeah. Edward, I think what we should be focusing a bit on is let's say the benefits of let's say nailing and monitoring the CLV, because it's one thing to, let's say, disregard it and be completely hypnotized about customer acquisition. It's another thing to monitoring it and being aware about it. And it's a totally different game of strategizing towards improving it and optimizing the customer lifetime value. We're big proponents of customer value optimization as a new discipline coming into the space. So from your perspective, how would you verbalize to e-commerce leaders the benefits of monitoring and improving the CLV? Which are the benefits that you think they are understanding? Because we as data geeks, we are seeing all these numbers, and while their understanding about all these numbers and metrics and CLV and the CPC and CTRs and whatever NPS are only, let's say, data. So how do you talk with e-commerce leaders about these benefits?
I think you've said it already, Valentin, and it comes down to, it plays key point in your strategy. And I'd say what's now more important than ever is defining future strategy. We're seeing so many traditional B2B brands, manufacturers having to pivot, having to shift, and having to do it quickly. And what they're learning, it's extremely easy now to transfer from a traditional B2B model, manufacturing focused model, with platforms such as Shopify Plus. So the building a website is not difficult anymore. Shifting with speed is not difficult anymore. Bringing your product online is not difficult anymore. I mean, look at what Walkers, known as Lays Out in the US, did. They went direct online, and they thought they were going to sell hundreds, thousands, millions. I'd say look at Heinz with baked beans over here. Again, it's a product that they suddenly went, well, let's launch it online, and everyone's going, wow, they've launched this product online, this huge global £1 billion industry. Okay, but what are they doing now? What does their turnover look like? What is it direct? And I think what the big picture is around strategy, and a big part of strategy is understanding CLV. So yes, you've got the data points. Yes, you've got the acquisition. You can forecast your future markets, your future growth. But if you're not focusing on CLV, you're not understanding your audience story, your audience journey, and you're not looking at what is it you're doing that's going to provide not only a single use case, but a multiple use case for that customer long term. And in those cases that I suggested, yeah, it's fantastic for me that I can go on and buy a bag of crisps direct from the manufacturer. Fantastic. But don't I already do that weekly? Don't I already do my shopping online like millions of other people, where I go to a multiple brand source that has everything in one pot, and that I can gain points on, and loyalty and rewards? And so this is the thing. This is just a micro example, but for me, the importance of understanding CLV and the data behind it and the decisions you make revolve around forming your strategy and what kind of relationship you want to have with that customer. And I think once you start identifying the relationship that you want to have with that customer, you then start seeing the benefit of CLV. It's not hard once you understand how to position your brand and what story and relationship you want to have with your customer at the end.
Yeah, Edward. But from let's presume that we have an e-commerce manager that says, okay, let's improve CLV. How would you suggest them to start? And also, let's presume that they've understood that their CLV is going on a downward trend, and they have a 20% year-over-year drop in CLV. What would you suggest?
Wow, way to put me on the spot there, Valentin. I think it's hard to say. I mean, look, everything that we preach at Swanky, and every decision that we made, and start looking at the data. So I think data, you are a data geek. I've heard you say data geek. I guess I'm a data geek as well. But data doesn't lie. It backs up every decision, every hypothesis you ever have. So initially, that should always be your first point. And then start identifying, where is that drop-off? What is it you're doing? Could it be the website? Could it be your user experience? Could it be your price point? Could it be your marketing? Could it be your communication? There are hundreds, if not thousands, of data checkpoints you can start looking at and bringing out some kind of hypothesis to say, why is our CLV dropping out? Actually looking at your competition, looking over the garden fence and saying, what are other people doing? If you're in an industry, let's say you're in a commodity industry, like vaping, like food, that is growing so far at the moment. These are really story and brand, story-led purchases that people get involved in. So it could be your price point. It could be how your website is performing. It could be how you're communicating post-purchase. There are multiple different touch points to look at, Valentin, but the first point of any kind of theorizing is looking at the data to understand, okay, it's immediate obvious to where that person is dropping off in your customer lifetime value.
Yeah, I will plug this in just a second, because we have this this approach towards customer lifetime value. We have this predictive and historical CLV, and what I think is important, for instance, is to see the trends for various customer groups. So we are using RFM segmentation in Reveal, and I think, as you could see here, what is important is not look it as an average. Like you are seeing here that this is dropping in average. So the predictive CLV is going down since, I don't know, February. But what is also important is to look at the predictive CLV as a customer level group. And you have your best customers, which are the soulmates, where the CLV is not dropping. So maybe what is important is to see for which group of customers is dropping, and as you can see here, the lovers group is going down. So one also important thing is to segment the CLV, because the average is misleading you many times. So that's why you need to drill down into data. So you use the average so that you can see the overall health of your e-commerce, but then you need to, as you've said, Edward, you need to, let's say, zoom in and to identify these anomalies and to identify for which types of customers this CLV is going down. We also have a question from Dan. Dan is asking us, how would you start the CLV journey if you have no brand presence? So let's say you are, I presume, Dan, that you are selling, you're a new company in the market and you don't have this awareness phase reached already. That's the question.
See, I know who Dan is, and thank you for that, Dan. It's much appreciated. We've had this conversation a few times. I think, it's your first stage is establishing a brand. When you're going into a new market, Dan's company is extremely new. Again, it's a traditional B2B brand that's gone into a B2C model. They're dealing with a very unique subject matter, which is plastics. So which can be quite dry, quite niche, but also hugely opportunistic, because if you're in a niche no one else is owning right now, you've seen how many brands have grown. But I think stage one is focusing 100% on that awareness. Make sure that people know your brand exists, that your niche exists. Again, a lot of these traditional B2B brands have sat in their own arenas, and if you look at a lot of the big, huge B2B billion-dollar companies that are out there, they're the guys that usually sit in these big platform events that you only really hear about when they're picking up award for being the biggest B2B company in the world. And then you realize they supply all the nuts and bolts to these huge wind farms. It's like, well, I'd never know about that. I'd never come into that. But I think my advice to you, Dan, and again, just stealing from what Valentin started saying, it's twofold. Start identifying your personas, your customer groups, who you're marketing to and where they exist, and then start building your brand and awareness. Then you'll start building up the data points and the history to start identifying your CLV. Yeah.
So Dan, also I have, let's say, something to add here as a piece of an advice. One of the most toxic behaviors of e-commerce companies is to pour resources into acquiring customers without understanding that they've already have a lot of data from the first customers to play with. So instead of pouring money into acquiring new customers that never come back, my advice to you is to simply ask your customers how was their experience and what almost stopped them from converting. And after some time has passed within the customer journey, so let's say you've acquired a customer, you've delivered the product, and after, let's say, a week, you check on that customer to understand what was the overall experience, the buying experience, the, let's say, delivery experience, and also the usage of the product experience. And once you have all this data, you understand how can you improve the buying habits, because CLV, it's a matter of buying habits. You don't need to it's like asking a girl to go out, and you go out and that's it. So you need the habit to be installed, and in order to install that habit, you have the testing, the number of customers that you've already tested on. So you have, let's say, 20 customers, 100 customers. Go there, ask them out, ask what's going on, how was the total experience, what you need to improve. So based on this knowledge from the customers, you'll be able to understand what you should be improving. And another thing would be to go out there for the loyal customers, the ones that, despite all of your barriers, so let's say you've jammed the delivery, you haven't, let's say, fulfilled their expectations, but however, they've started to buy second time, third time, and so on. So these are your, like we call them, soulmates, the best customers you have. So pick up the phone and call them. Hey, how was the experience? What we should be improving? what would made you feel delighted, right? Because in such a competitive market, doing the normal is not enough. So if you just deliver on your promise, that's not enough, because there is too much competition. We can go to buy the same freaking product from 20, 50, 200 vendors. So why should I buy it from you? That's the question. So the product is one thing, but the overall experience around the product is a different thing. So that's in your control. How you deliver it, how you delight your customer is it's in your control. So even though you don't have such a big awareness, or you're not a brand like Sears or whatever big brand, you can be the warmest. You can be the one that actually cares about the customers. And the number one reason why customers stop buying from a company, guess what? It's not because they fail on delivery. It's because they feel that the company doesn't care about them. So it's a feeling, yeah? So that means you need to monitor the emotions. So that's why you need to have your own habit to monitor the emotions that the customers have after you deliver your products. So mainly that's my advice to you. So I think we've done answering to Dan. Fingers crossed, and keep us in the loop about how it worked for you. So, Edward, we've promised something at the beginning of this episode: how to engage your audience and communicate your why. So let's address this topic as well.
Yeah, and again, this seems to be a common theme, Valentin. You're good at these segments because you've pretty much said the same thing. It's in a market now where you can probably buy that same product. I think today's e-commerce outlook for multi-brand retailers, or box packers as I like to call them, it's not a derogatory term, but it's very difficult for them because, how can you compete? How can you compete beyond when you've got the same product that's available in multiple different areas for multiple different price points? And we're now unlocking the secrets of making shipping and returns super easy. So again, what's your arguing point? And I think that's why you're seeing many direct brands, and you will see coming into next year a lot of what has been traditional B2B and manufacturing brands who have gone D2C. If they can understand their why, if they can understand their story and their brand, their messaging, and how they can convert that to customer lifetime value, they're going to be the next success stories. And I think, coming from my time at Thomann, my time at the Grow Company, and my time at Naissance, these are very strong brand-led companies who really knew what they were trying. It wasn't, as you said, it wasn't about the product. The product was, it was an end result of their ideology. But what the customers and what long-time purchasers would buy into is the ethos behind the brands. And I think what we're seeing now, which I'm so happy about, that the current situation we're in, yes, it's terrible, but there are some nice unicorn moments coming out of it. And I think what I've seen even locally is local butchers, fruit and veg stores, bakeries, who would never have considered going online. They've been able not only to supply product, but they've all been able to communicate their why. This is something I completely steal from Simon Sinek. He's a bit, I do sort of Jones a little bit over him, but he's got it completely right. If you understand why you do things, and if you understand why you're doing it, and you communicate to your audience why you're doing it, that's how you're successful, and that's what keeps people coming back. Because we've seen this immense growth, and I'm seeing so many stories about we've grown. The e-commerce industry has come along 10 years since March. I don't think the entire e-commerce industry has, but I think the e-commerce awareness and people have been forced to start purchasing online. But I think what I keep hearing multiple times is from these small brands who never considered going online. I started saying, right, this is why we went into business. This is why we love what we do. This is why we're passionate. And it is so important to communicate that, because it forms the end result of our product or service, whatever we're doing. And that communication has to come across in much more than just a website. It has to be unique to your social media. It has to come across to your messaging. You have so many platforms now there, whether it's chat, social, email, customer services, on the phone, whatever you put on the website, whatever you put on a billboard outside of some train station. The importance of your why has to be consistent across all of your channels. And that for me is how you start communicating. Every touch point, you communicate your why and why you're here and why you do what you do. And that will start attracting your audience and keep your audience loyal to you.
One thing to add here, and actually to show everyone about positioning and having your own voice. I do admire these guys, Pit Viper sunglasses.
They're my heroes.
So mainly, I do admire them because they have their own voice. These are they're really real pictures, and they have all these old school, as you can see, overlays over here. So I think if you position like they do, and if you have this voice, right? If you tell your story, then you can have loyal customers, and you can nail that CLV. Even though let's say it seems hard to achieve, but it's actually being authentic, and being authentic in a world where all the ads seems like they are ads. It's a breakthrough already. So I think that's a challenge that many entrepreneurs are and many e-commerce leaders are disregarding somehow. So they are not having, and they are not communicating the brand values and the attributes properly. So they keep on broadcasting with the same discount code, buy this, then that, and that's boring, right? So nobody wants boring anymore.
I agree with you, and I think one of the things I love from Pit Viper, it's almost, so I think you said it again, authenticity in your story, authenticity in your brand, but also realize that the days of owning everyone are gone. The Amazons, the big Chinese conglomerates, those guys have owned that space, and people go to the likes of Amazon because availability, ease of use, and it's there next day, and they've owned that side of the things. The brands that are coming through and growing and understanding their why, they're almost Pit Viper is so unapologetically honest that it kind of pre-qualifies its audience. It's very it's like, you either love us or you hate us, but if you love us, you're going to stay here forever. And I think that's one of the things that successful brands, that there is space. It is a very, very hard marketplace to be in, but there still is space for everything, absolutely everything. But that's why I agree with you. It's hard to fight, but you've got to be honest. You've got to have integrity and put it out there on the line. You will find an audience that will love you, and you will find an audience that will buy into what you're trying to communicate. And I think, people will go to Pit Viper and either love it or hate it. Nobody will sit there on the middle and go, I'm not sure about this one way or the other. And it won't surprise you that I've ordered, I'm waiting for my glasses to turn up because I absolutely love everything that they do. But again, that authenticity is going to be key on communicating your why.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, Edward. Also, I have something to add over here. I think this principle of under promise and over delivery is being let's say undervalued, and many companies think that this is an investment that's not going to pay off. But in order to over deliver, you don't have to make a huge financial investment. So even if you sent you put on autopilot a freaking email saying thank you, or on an ad campaign with the capping of one per lifetime, saying with a picture with everyone in your company saying thank you, like with a big sign over their heads. That's something easy to do, and it's not a huge thing to do, but that's going to create an emotional bond with your customer. And I've seen this in our data. We have right now around 400 e-commerce stores which are sending the data to us, because Reveal is completely free for Shopify until the end of this year. And we see this pattern. The customer retention is down, so it's at about 23%. So that means only 1 out of 4 people are going to place the next order from an e-commerce. And I've seen also this statistic that a customer from the UK is 4 times more open to buy from Amazon or eBay than from an online retailer. Yeah. So that means you, as an online retailer, you need to do something to make those customers come back from you, because otherwise it's just like you've done some sampling, right? So you've got your first order, you've made a tiny margin, or you've lost money, and then that's it. So that's not the game of the name of the game. So the retention game is what you're playing in, and you should be starting to brainstorm around which are the, let's say, small investments with high emotional impact that I could do so that I can keep my customers.
You're completely right, and it's even affected me. So you wouldn't believe this naturally takes a bit to care for. I have a penchant for beard balms, but throughout the recent stuff since March, I've invested in brands, and I'll be lifetime customers, because on my delivery notes, there's been a thank you. There's been a personal written message. There's also been, it's amazing. I've got it pinned up on my wall over here, but a handwritten upsell and cross-sell from a business owner who has made the balm themselves, said thank you, offered a discount code because they've seen I've ordered over the last 10 months, and then also said, I think you should try this and that. And you damn skippy, I ordered it, because again, it's that emotional commerce. It's that, okay, I'm gonna take the time to say thank you, and I'm gonna do it in an authentic way. And as long as I've got this silly thing on my face, I will continue to buy from this brand from here to, you know.
Yeah, that's great, and it's a great example as well. I have one story around buying again from a merchant. I was in Greece with my family, and I had to go with a ferry to another island, and I left my wife and my 2 kids with her. And when I got back 3 days after, we wanted to go somewhere to eat, and they were saying, oh, we are going to this Georgios place, or whatever that name was. And okay, let's go there. But why? We've ate only there. So there were like, I don't know, maybe 100 restaurants on the beach. Then we went there, and then it was the restaurant owner. He showed up. He said, oh, you are her husband. Glad to meet you. We shook hands, and then he told me what's new. Whatever. Fact is that was our last meal over there. So when we finished that, he showed up with 2 toys for my kids, and he showed up with a branded bottle of wine. He said that's a local wine, and it was with that Georgios name on the bottle. And my wife told me that they were really impressed, because every time he was rounding down, so if it was, I don't know, 54 pounds, it was 50 for us. And he's always been showing that. But of course, we were paying 60 because we felt the need to actually pay it back, because they were so friendly and so open towards us. So at the end of this experience, we could have got in those 3 days to eat, I don't know, in 6 other places. but they've got the lifetime for us as a tourist. We haven't been in that island again. But fact is that we were as valuable as 6 customers because that guy made the right thing. So the customer journey, and he was doing this with everyone. So he was rounding up the bill for everyone. He was giving a small gift at the end. He was giving dessert to everyone. And we started to talk about it. And voila! And when someone from my friends got to that island, Agionoros is the name of that island. We told them about that restaurant, and guess what? We made everything. He made everything by the book, and we made everything by the book. So he got a lifetime customer and an advocate as well. And it's pretty easy to do this thing if you do the math. So he was calculating this stuff. Okay, he was paying attention to everyone. He was doing this small gesture, but I don't think that he was losing money with us, right? So you can also get more wealthy, and you can also be a good human being and have positive emotions with your customers. And the alternative would be only to have strangers as customers, and nobody wants let's say awkward relationships with strangers, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think from for me, listening to you, there's a lesson to learn. Customer retention isn't about a race to the bottom. It's not about putting the price down and continually getting lower and lower against your competition. It's about what you give back. Now, whether that's content, whether it's guides, whether it's loyalty, it's a two-way relationship. And I think that's why I get so excited working with brands directly rather than multiple brand retailers, because you can have it's much easier to define that relationship with your customer base. That's what I get from that story. I completely agree.
That makes sense. Yeah, Edward, we have one topic to address. So mainly what we've stated at the beginning, that a successful e-com journey requires apps partners and specialists who deliver and understand the mission of your brand. So what you are doing there right now, because we've talked about your journey from selling SIM cards, and then from going to Thomann, the German music e-store, and then with the Grow company. But you are now at Swanky Agencies. Tell us a bit about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so Swanky's been, we're in a few months, we'll be 11 years old. And I mean, we've been doing Shopify Plus for 8 years. Wow. So a lot of what we do, we're really good with migration. There's a lot of brands looking to jump from very clunky, old, slow, merchant unfriendly platforms, which I've got a lot of years experience in, and they're moving to Shopify. So we do a lot with migrations. I've already said we're very good in subscription space, and we also do very well in the B2B sector. But we also focus on growth services. So there's the agency plug. What I'm doing specifically, really twofold. I act as a voice for our merchants and the companies we work with. We're not interested in short-term engagements, and we haven't existed for 11 years by having roll-off customers. We do. It's interesting, and you mentioned entrepreneurship. I have seen, and I've done it in the past, where I found agencies where you as a merchant, either the agency outgrows you or the other side, you outgrow the agency. And I think the secret to Swanky's success is it's able to take someone who's doing a couple of £100, couple of $100 a month, and take them through to doing hundreds of thousands. And that takes a unique skill set. And I think one of the best skill set is being a customer champion. And I give it to Dan and the crew at Swanky for allowing me to sit on the fence of, one, understanding the customer, understanding the merchant's journey, where they want to get to, and being that advocate internally. So I will shout and scream at people when I think, this is what the merchant wants, hold their chalice. But I think the main thing is A lot of the merchants are moving fast. They work with platforms like Shopify, that enables them to move at pace. But then it's understanding their long-term goals and translating that into, I'm really a solutions consultant. Okay, you want to offer, you want to go to this market, you want to connect to this system, you want to do loyalty, you want to do personalization. Okay, how do we get there? Through tech stack? And then more importantly, do you have the skill set internally? Do you have the know-how internally? What can we do as an agency to bring you up to speed? And again, going back to what I said at the beginning, how much do you want us to hold your hands through this process? Because for us, I remember the days when having a website was a huge deal for a brand. It's like, yes, we've got a website, it's all over. No, it's just an expectation now. So for us, building a website, it's hard work, don't get me wrong. And I don't want to say that the work our new build team is any less important, but it's important for us to educate the merchants and the partners we work with, is once you've launched your website, that's step one. Now the real fun starts. So that's kind of where I'm at. And what I've been 20 years on the merchant side. And as I said, I've experienced multiple agencies, and I've had good times, I've had bad times. I've worked with multiple tech partners, some that do what they say on the tin and a lot that don't. And that's why they're no longer here. But I think coming back to what I was saying, when you're working as in a platform like Shopify that is so app dependent, that has such a community, it is so important to work with not only an agency, but tech partners, app partners, and companies like yourself who really buy into your journey, who don't just say they do, but can actually demonstrate and show that they understand what you're doing. I think what I was having this conversation with a few agency owners the other night. We've gone from the age of these huge multi-agencies who you go in like a machine. You want a website, you go in, you come out, you've got a website. And then you've gone to the agencies who specialized and say, okay, you want to do migration, you want to do loyalty, you want to do subscription, great. But now you're going into the hyper-focused areas where the agencies understand the brand, they understand your mission, they understand what your niche in your area, and they represent that same ideology, because it is a relationship. Whether it's a merchant agency, merchant customer, whatever, it is a relationship. And I think that's been my lesson on the tech and agency side. How that there are agencies that are starting to adopt to that model, which is I'm super passionate about.
That totally makes sense, Edward. So we are approaching the last questions that I have for you, Edward, today. And tell us, as we are focusing on growth and we are e-commerce people, tell us how you achieve inner growth. So what are you, let's say, having as hacks so that you become a better person or you grow internally?
I don't know if I can call it hacks, but I'll make it very simple. I'm a simple guy. I'm just consistently learning. One of the things, I went into consultancy for myself, and I thought it was going to be a great thing that I could do consultancy, but I found I was repeating myself. The merchants and the customers I was working with found it useful, but I felt like a bit of a cad, a bit of a fad. I was just saying the same thing and just repeating myself. I really love learning. I love being challenged. I love going into new areas, and I love different viewpoints. And I think what we're seeing within e-commerce is so many niche areas. We're talking about CLV, we're talking about CRO, we're talking about CRO, we're talking about all of these new niches and disciplines to improve growth. And personally, since I joined Swanky, they are hyper passionate about customer CRO. And it's an area that I thought I had some understanding of. And I tell you, the last 10 months have been an absolute whirlwind of trying to keep up with not only platforms, but methodologies, especially how they relate to different industries. So I think for me, inner learning, just consistently challenge yourself, and you probably won't. This will make my friends who are on the in the session now laugh, but just making sure you feel like the dumbest person in the room, because it really inspires you to learn and get up to speed. And I love being in environments where I have no idea what people are talking about, because it just challenges me to use this old noggin and start learning and understanding, because what I can learn today, I can pass it on and share to someone in the future. And I think, yeah, that the thing that humbles me at most is being able to pass on information and helping others who are trying to achieve what you might have done a year ago.
That's great, and I'm totally with you on this, Edward. So everyone, that was the last question. Thanks a lot, Edward, for joining us at eCommerce Growth Show. Where can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you, Edward?
They can contact me at the Swanky agency, or just look under my LinkedIn profile. You'll see me with my picture with a baby beard. But feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and any questions, any advice, or if you want to tell me where I'm going wrong, feel free.
Great. So, Edward, thanks a lot for being part of eCommerce Growth Show today. And as for you out there, next Thursday at 3 p.m. UK time, we're going to have another guest, Soma Todd from Ricard. We're going to talk a bit about how to put on autopilot the conversations by using Messenger for your e-commerce. So that being said, stay safe, everyone, and we'll see each other next week.
Take care, everyone. Thank you again, Valentin.